ideators and entrepreneurs, CUNY Startups here. Welcome to CUNY and Beyond, the podcast dedicated to helping inspiring entrepreneurs through storytelling. We're excited to dive into the entrepreneurial endeavors of CUNY students, alum, and bonus entrepreneurs who are willing to share their valuable insights with you. Join us for today's show.
And today we have a special guest, another CUNY alum. We have Yuridia Peña. She is a mom, a wife, and an entrepreneur. Started a business in 2020 when COVID happened. So we'll jump into that. Yuridia, if you can tell us a little bit about a background about yourself and what is it that you did before you started your business?
Sure. And thank you so much, Adia, for having me in your show. This is really awesome. What I was doing before, I've always worked in communications and public relations. I started in the labor movement working for the principals union, school principals. And that's really where I got my sea legs, I like to say, in sort of like politics, an intersection of politics and the labor movement back in 2006, 2007. I'm dating myself a little bit, but it's okay. And I was there for a long time. I was there for about 7 to 8 years because it was around the recession. It was challenging to get, a job. It was challenging to, start your career. I studied journalism. I wanted to be a journalist and a reporter for a long time. And I did some writing and some photography here and there. But then when I got the job at the labor movement at the union, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with city politics, government, labor, all of it. And this was during the time of Occupy Wall Street. Obama was in office. It was just a really exciting time to be in local and city politics. And then my career went on from there. I received a master's degree from Baruch College, which was an amazing experience. I worked for a city council member in Queens, Mark Weprin, as his communications director. I was a deputy press secretary for the Department of Education under Carmen Farina and then de Blasio, who was the mayor at the time. So I helped really launch the pre-K for all program in terms of like the bilingual communications aspect of it. I did a lot of bilingual communications, Spanish language communications, ethnic and community press, which is a huge portion of our media. From there, I just kept growing. And then by the time I reached 2020, I was a vice president of communications for a nonprofit. It was a healthcare nonprofit that worked with Medicaid patients, and we did really great work there. And when the pandemic hit, I was like, you know what, it's time to branch out and do something different. And that's exactly what happened. I took the leap of faith on myself and on my, abilities. And I was really able to tap into my network and get a couple of clients here and there. And, the pandemic presented itself, I think, for a lot of communications professionals, an opportunity to do something a little bit different. It was, unprecedented. And so was the communications at the time and PR. You really had to go, speak to reporters in a different way and think about strategy in a different way. There were so many organizations doing really good work, and they really wanted to sort of peel through that saturated media that still lives on today. And again, there was an opportunity there, and I took it. And, something that was very temporary for me has become something that I'm really proud of 4 years later, doing really interesting work with different organizations now.
Okay. So it seems like you have a really heavy background in public service, social impact, social justice. And you mentioned you tapped into your network when you pivoted into your business. So how did you develop that network, those relationships over the years and maintain that in order to tap into it?
I believe every industry is pretty close-knit. And when it comes to city politics and working in government especially, I think that's really where I cultivated my relationships when I was working in City Hall. You could imagine it's high-paced. I was a staffer at the time, so you have it really opened up a whole new window for me of different types of professionals, lobbyists, elected officials, other staffers, more labor, other agencies as well, community-based organizations. And all these folks sort of, if they stay in your ether almost, they stay in your orbit. And, folks that I was a staffer with at the council are now council members. So, we kind of all grew up together in the industry. I was writing a press release the other day and they were like, oh, we need a quote from such and such organization. And when I saw the quote, it was like from one of my really good friends. I'm like, I didn't know you were working for these people. So how did I cultivate those relationships? I mean, when you are working in the press world and with media, it's sort of like secondhand to you. It's sort of something that you have to do. You have to communicate. You're never working in a silo when you're working in communications. Even when I was a VP in communications, it just wasn't my team. I had to speak to the attorneys and to the lobbyists and to the government affairs professionals. So there's always, that's the beauty about communications. You're always speaking to other people as well, because you're trying to get the truth, right? You're almost like you're trying to get more information, the right information. So you're always fact checking or fact finding. You're speaking to data specialists. So you get to really engage with different people in different spaces. And I'm a pretty outgoing person, so it was pretty easy for me to cultivate those relationships and like manage different personalities as well. But it's a challenge because sometimes people keep information to the chest. They don't want to tell you all of the information. There's always a way. There's always a way to negotiate and to figure out what you need to get the right product out there for either your organization or your client.
It's hard. So I relate to that. So as the founder and strategic communications advisors at Alta Consulting, what do you feel has been like the most difficult thing that you have to do so far along your entrepreneurial journey?
I think really learning the nuts and bolts of things. I would love to champion or advocate more for college students or even, students in graduate degrees to take like a business course, because you never know, you may end up in the entrepreneurial route at some point in your career, because a lot of the times you may just become a consultant or a freelancer and you still need to learn what's the difference between an LLC and an S Corp, right? It was a very big learning curve for me. But again, I have like such a great network of friends and professionals that really held my hand throughout the way. And, I really leaned to them in terms of like how to do certain things administrative. So all that to say, the biggest challenge was the administrative portion of it, because those are facets of a business that you're not exposed to unless you work in maybe like HR or administrative services. So that was a learning curve for me, and it still is. But now I have an accountant. I have things in place, because a lot of the times you feel that I'm smart enough to figure it out, and you are, but it's time consuming and everything takes time. So time management is also very difficult. It could be very challenging because especially when you're starting, you're doing everything. You are the chief of staff, you are the admin, you are the secretary, you are the CEO, you are the CFO. But then you learn and I was very blessed last year, at the ending of last year, to be part of the Goldman Sachs small businesses cohort. I learned so much. It was amazing. The resources is just invaluable. So getting to know like what are the accelerators out there that could help you with your journey as an entrepreneur, and the different resources that you could tap into.
I'm glad that you mentioned the Goldman Sachs Accelerator, because I did notice that you did it, it's similar to our accelerator. We have an MVA New Venture One Accelerator where we do it for like 10 weeks, which is averaging about 3 months. I know yours was 4 months. And our accelerator is mainly for students who they might not even have a day. They don't have a team. They don't have anything. So they're starting from scratch. And I know the one that you were part of, it's starting where you already are a business owner. They're just helping you develop it even more, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So what was the biggest takeaway from that program itself? Like, what was the biggest lesson that you learned from them?
One of the biggest lessons I learned really is to always have a strategy in terms of like your growth plan? What's your growth plan in the next year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? So really putting that in perspective for me was scary, but it was also very exciting because they also presented to you in a way that's very realistic. You know, they say, what's your pie in the sky? And then what's really something that a realistic goal? And then you could see those two goals and have those like two different trajectories and pathways to, you know, really attain those goals. So that was really enlightening for me. And also just the takeaways from the other entrepreneurs too. A lot of the times you feel like you're alone in the process and like no one really understands, especially in services, because I don't really have a physical product, right, to sell. I'm selling a service. So that could also be very challenging at times, but to see other people that are products and services kind of meshes together, very similar challenges. So just speaking to them and engaging with them and building those relationships with, I mean, I had so much in common with folks in like real estate, like who would have known, or like manufacturing, right? Like who would have known that we have so much in common.
That sounds really amazing. I wanted to jump into something that you have experienced so far that you think is like the most rewarding experience on your entrepreneurial journey. So since starting Alta Consulting, what has been like maybe like a rewarding client experience or just something that stands out to you?
Well, I've been very fortunate to have really good clients. I think that is one of the reasons why I stay in this path, because I'm able to sort of really be strategic on who I want to work with and who I want to work for and who I want to help. And I think one of the things that have been very rewarding for me has been any of the grassroots sort of coalitions that I've been part of, like the Racial Justice Commission. We had a ballot initiative a couple of years ago, and I worked with amazing consultants, you know, just really trying to elevate some of the issues and highlight some of the racial disparities going on in the city, and how sort of this initiative and this specific commission could mitigate those types of disparities, whether it's just through an office that says racial justice, right? That's going to hone in on those issues and make things better in some way, whether it's to bring wraparound services to communities that are disadvantaged or communities of color. I also work with some of the city and state's amazing nonprofits that are working to really reform the criminal justice system nationally and helping with their growth plans to expand. I work with one that's providing youth with workforce development, and these are youth that are either at risk of being incarcerated or have had some kind of engagement already with the criminal justice system, with the juvenile justice system. And they work to not only vacate those sentences altogether, but to really give them a path to an opportunity in education and a career path. And also working with really great organizations that are providing college and prisons, really helping with the reentry services. So pitching those type of stories to like a New York Times reporter, to a Daily News reporter, or even to like Harlem News, you know, smaller, is very rewarding for me, because these are stories that are really not told most of the time, or they're told in a different light when it comes to our legal system. They're not really telling the story of like, you know, Shakespeare being taught in prisons, in women prisons, or a musical being put together, or folks learning how to write poetry or expressing their poetry, or vacating sentences for young people that perhaps did something very egregious but still deserve a second chance.
I love that you're representing, or you're looking to represent, those who are underrepresented and those who are in communities of color. That's amazing. I do want to jump into the tools that you use on a daily basis. So your role is like public relations, marketing, advertising. And I know like I tools for me is Canva and Excel. And I know that you have a background in graphic design and photography. So what tools do you typically use on a daily basis that helps you be more productive and efficient in your job?
Yeah, well, these days I am very into software that's going to organize all of the different parts of a campaign. So whether it's like Airtable or very nice clean Google Drive with folders, I'm very simple when it comes to that. I also do use Canva. I think Canva is a great tool. In terms of like photography, I do more of like directing now. I'm not really the one taking photos, although I really loved doing that at some point. But really more storyboarding concepts, putting together scripts and such. I tend to really gravitate towards those different types of tasks like every single day. Like today I wrote maybe like 3 statements on like current events that have been going on that's trending right now in the political sphere for some of my clients. And I'm also, working with a videographer on like script writing and like concepts for like a gala video, right? So it changes every day. It's really, it's like working at a PR agency. It is a PR agency. So, we're like juggling 6 clients right now. One software I rely on heavily is Meltwater. It's similar to Cision. They do your social media management. They help you organize sort of like your engagement as well. Very functional platform. And then there's good old MailChimp that has been around forever.
Is that one of it? What does that one do?
MailChimp, it's another like distribution sort of software. So, it's used heavily for like political campaigning, sending out emails, newsletters, press releases, media advisories. It's a really great tool, MailChimp. It's very good.
Well, thank you. We're going to jump straight into a little game. I love games. So I'm going to do a Would You Rather, but it's going to be marketing edition. So the first question is, would you rather give up your laptop or your smartphone?
Laptop,
same. Would you rather have every web page you visited load very slowly or see the same ads every day for 1 year?
That's a tough one. I would say, what do you mean by very slowly?
I mean, it could be back to AOL times. It could be like startup dial-up.
The latter. I'll watch the same ads. If it's like in my algorithm, then it's for me.
Yeah. Okay. Would you rather do email marketing for the next 5 years or only do influencer marketing for the next 5 years?
I mean, I love email marketing, but I would say that we're gravitating towards influencer marketing for sure. Yes.
I prefer the email marketing as well. I feel like I have more control over that. But would you rather do a new social media challenge every day or only work with teen influencers from here on out?
Team or teen?
Teenagers.
Oh, I'll work with teenagers any day. They're so innovative.
Yes. Would you rather launch a marketing campaign with unset goals or campaign with off-brand creative?
Off-brand creative. I feel that you cannot do a marketing campaign without goals. That makes no sense. So I would say second. You need goals.
Yes, big on SMART goals as well. Like what are you even doing? Would you rather never be able to retarget prospects, or only sell to returning customers?
Oh, returning customers.
Yes, because they can always share and tell other people anyway.
Exactly.
Would you rather create content your audience can experience or content that gets a lot of views?
Oh. Content that they could experience.
Yes. Would you rather, this is the last one, would you rather use social media to broadcast or to engage in conversation?
To broadcast.
To broadcast. All right. Thanks for playing my little game segments.
Love it. I love some rapid fire questions.
All right. So the next question is, do you have tips, like 3 tips that would be helpful for someone who's starting a business, like for the marketing and advertising portion?
Number 1, create a business plan, because it's easy to just try to do everything at once without a strategy. And a business plan, although it sounds, again, daunting, it will organize your thoughts and give you a roadmap of some sort. And you could always go back to it. A business plan is almost like your breathing document that lives on forever. And you can have different iterations of it, and check things off when they're done. But it's sort of like your guide. It's interesting because you'll go back and like, oh, that was our mission a year ago. Like, what's our mission now? Like, it kind of puts things in perspective. So start with a business plan, and within that business plan, have your marketing and advertising goals. Number 2 would be, again, with the planning before any execution, like, again, what's your like blue sky, pie in the sky goal, and like what's something more realistic, and try to find something in between that you could like work towards too. Always having like that, I want a New York, I'm going to talk like my customers, my clients always say, I want a New York Times feature. That's what I want, right? How we're going to get there? Well, let's start with some local news, let's like build some momentum so we could have something to build up to, especially for those organizations that don't necessarily make news all the time. I like to tackle that same sort of philosophy to myself, and I would tell others to do the same. And number 3, which is pretty simple, I would say start with 1 social media channel, maybe 2, but not all of them, because that's just a lot to manage, especially as an entrepreneur. Like, I started with a LinkedIn and I believe a Facebook page, but I really started with the LinkedIn because I felt that LinkedIn is where your customers are. Is where the CEOs who you're pitching to, whatever that person looks like, other VPs of marketing that may need marketing or PR. So that's where I was able to say, we exist, we're here, and promote there. And Instagram is just like, your personality, fun content. And then TikTok, I don't know. I'm too old for TikTok. I don't know what TikTok is for. To dance. Although there's a lot. I mean, let me not say that. TikTok is an amazing platform. I always advocate for that because it's becoming the new Instagram. Everyone's on TikTok now. So.
And do you have any upcoming projects or things that you're working on that you want to share?
We are revamping our website. I know that's very exciting, but it's exciting for me. We're revamping our website for Alta Consulting. I hope that we'll be hiring soon. So I will let you know of anything that pops up, because I would love to, tap into my CUNY network when I'm ready to, bring someone on board. Right now, I'm looking into interns, college interns for the summer and maybe for the fall. Anyone who wants to get, their sea legs in the PR, marketing, political sphere. I think we're going to have really cool projects coming up. Still working with my criminal justice organizations as well as political campaigns. There's going to be there. Well, we are in the middle of a big season, but next year for New York City, it's going to be very, very interesting. So you'll probably see Alta out there at some juncture. I'm not going to say where.
So, and how should people contact you? Should they email? Should they go to the website? I know it's being revamped right now, but what's the best way to contact you?
Being revamped right now, but all the information will live there. It's altaconsulting.co. And we are also in LinkedIn. And yeah, that's where you can find us right now.
Thank you so much, Yuridia, for meeting with me today. It was a pleasure talking to and learning more about Alta Consulting. Any little tips or advice you want to leave the students?
Just believe in yourself. I know that sounds really corny, but a lot of the times, especially as women and men and just people of color in any industry, really, sometimes we have imposter syndrome and we feel like, maybe we shouldn't be in this room. Believe that you should be in the room. And just keep going, and you will find your North Star, and you'll find what you need to accomplish.
Thank you so much. I definitely suffer from imposter syndrome, so that's how we all do me too. But thank you so much.